Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where people come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I'm joined by Stoney.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going?
It's good. Today is the day.
Today's the day. The eclipse is happening, but it's too cloudy for us to see it.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
it'll reach its peak for us probably about midway through this broadcast.
That's all right.
So I mean, it's but yeah,
If it wasn't cloudy, could we have done the show outside so we could watch
that
it and
would
watch
have
the
been
end of the
that
world
would have been
happen?
interesting. Yeah, that would have been
It's
interesting.
so dark.
Right.
I'm scared.
If the end of the world does happen, at least we'll have it on tape.
That's right.
Also,
Exactly.
I doubt it.
Nah,
Everyone's
I think
freaking out over nothing.
I think things will just keep on going.
Yep.
That's like I remember reading a little line in a book, and I know it sounds depressing, but I guess in this particular case, it kind of goes with it. It says the world is doomed, but it keeps on going anyway.
There you go. Yep.
So
I've said that about workplaces that I've been a part of. Everyone gets so stressed and frustrated. And I'm like, it's gonna keep on keeping on. This place is gonna open and close, and the whole cycle will continue whether you're here or not. I know it's depressing, but at the same time, it's like, but also that doesn't give you the excuse to not, try our best though.
well, yeah, it's not that I just drop out of the society
Right,
and the
right.
world and just go hide in a bunker somewhere and
Yep.
Although right now a good bunker is kind of is looking pretty good. So
yeah, well.
right now they got some of those old nuclear silos that you can buy for $300,000 with everything in it you need.
Well, I guess we're talking about infrastructure.
Nope.
So in this episode, yeah, I think that's kind of goes hand in hand about, infrastructure and where we're at as a society, how vulnerable we are, and, all these things. I know I saw what happened. We're around a lot of bridges around here.
Mm-hmm.
Could that happen here?
Oh, absolutely.
So what is the name of this one? What are we going to be talking about
I
today?
think it's the collapse of the
Baltimore Bridge.
the Francis Scott Key Bridge. In Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah.
Hey, fun fact. Did you know that Temu, that Chinese shopping website, has 2 container ships trapped on the other side of the bridge? And how did they say it? They were destroyed by the bridge coming down.
Oh,
Okay, they were destroyed. Temu has 2 crates destroyed. And they say they have a total loss of $64.28.
I believe that.
well, that I think it was. I mean, there's been other bridge collapses. I mean, that's not but I mean, it was to catch this on film and to watch this ship lose control. According to what the news report's saying, it lost power and kind of got off course a little bit and struck the one of the main support pilings and brought the whole bridge down, which shocked a lot of people.
It happened. I've watched the clip. It's shocking how fast the whole thing falls. I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, there's a whole lot of engineering that is involved in building a bridge. So I can only imagine that But I know that, and we're also dealing with a big ship. Probably a lot of power. There's a lot of things at play that I don't think I fully understand, but it's surprising how effortless it looks and how it feels like it's like oops, and then the whole thing comes crumbling down. Was it structurally sound? And so, but I like I said, I know it's probably just because if I was there in person looking at it, I'm pretty sure it's a pretty colossal.
Well, one of the things when you look at
and glad you're not on it when
exactly.
it happens.
when you look at what happened was he came out of his parked area and he took a right and he went up and did a U-turn to get speed. He could have just come out and took a left, but he wanted to generate as much speed as he could.
I think they struck the bridge at about 7 knots. is what I've read as far as the speed of the ship. It had come down from 8 knots.
Wow.
Well, because two things happened. He dropped his anchor on the left side, which is causing some concern with a bunch of the conspiracy theorists, because if you drop the anchor on the left side, your ship is going to steer to the left.
Right.
But he took a direct turn right when they hit the pylon. And you could see that the ship lost power 2 to 3 times.
Yeah, there was obviously some issues going on with the navigation computers and all that. They said that there was smoke. So there was obviously, could have been a short. It could have been anything. I mean, anything mechanical can break. It was just unfortunate that it happened at a very vulnerable moment.
I wonder if that ship had any like checks and balances in place to.
Well,
make
they all
sure.
have. They
I mean,
all
I
have
know,
double
but-
and triple checks. But it also happened again on April the 6th in the New York harbor.
Yeah.
Another ship lost power. 3 tugboats were helping, but they had to bring in 3 more to get it under control. And it almost went for the bridge.
Well, believe it or not, I remember when I was a lot younger, I remember taking a trip down to Sanibel Island, Florida. This was a unique trip because it was during the school year, during the spring that in 83. And I remember going and we were driving down through Tampa because that was the way. And I remember seeing a bridge completely broken in two.
Wow.
Crossing over. And I didn't realize it, but in 1980, something's very similar happened. Matter of fact, they changed even the building codes on bridges after this event. The problem with the Francis Scott Key Bridge was it was completed in 1977. So it's one of those bridges that do not have was just not built with all the
safety concerns.
With those safety concerns in play. Now, some communities have spent some money to fortify some of these bridges with different structures around these pylons and stuff like that.
Right.
But, I vividly recall that when I was researching this topic and they brought up the that bridge in Florida, I'm trying to remember what was the name of it. I think it was the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. And that it collapsed in 1980. It killed 35 people. And I'm going to tell you what, that was a high bridge. I remember going over that and going, oof. I'm a little nervous going over this thing.
Quick story I can tell you about that same bridge.
It was called the Sunshine Skyway.
Yep. It's the Sunshine Bridge. When I lived in Tampa, I used to travel over that bridge every day. But it was when I was first there. And I'm coming south to north. And so if you're trying to use your brain to keep up with me, on the right-hand side is the bay, and the left-hand side is ocean bound.
It's the
to
Gulf.
the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
And so I'm actually at the peak, and there was an accident down at the toll part. So we were stuck there. And I used to run grade a little bit. So I at the time I could blue top, which is I could run a bulldozer or a motor patrol to cut a 1/4-inch grade. And so I'm sitting at the peak of the bridge, and I'm new here. I'm just moved there, just checking things out. And I see this cruise ship coming around the corner. And it's coming to the peak of the bridge. And I look over, and the smokestack is taller than I am. And I'm looking at it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh, crap. What the heck? And all of a sudden, I see a couple of things happening. He picks up his speed. And he guns it. And then all of a sudden, you can see the ship sinking. And then the stack for the exhaust pipe drops mechanically, comes down. And he picks up speed, and you can see him drop underneath the bridge. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like freaking out. Nobody else cares. I guess they knew what was going on. When he popped on the other side of the bridge, you could see the smokestack come up. He slowed down, and the water was pumping out of 10 big.
Yeah, he flooded. He flooded. He almost like a submarine. And then he flooded the chamber.
I found out there's a nose cone on the front of the ship that when they pick up speed, it drops the ship down. He pumped water on board, and then picking up speed, and then the smokestack. It's just a cosmetic thing,
right?
That dropped down because they didn't want people to see the ugly smokestacks.
Exactly.
And it dropped down. He went under, and because I asked a bunch of people afterwards, I was like, "Oh my God,
that had to be scary."
That bridge is kind of nuts. They had closed it down another time because there was an elderly gentleman who shut the whole thing down because the police were chasing him. They got him to the toll thing and stopped him, and he didn't know why. He could not fathom why somebody would stop him. But he had hit a pedestrian, and the head was still stuck in the other side of the window, and he didn't even know he hit somebody. Yeah,
wow.
That was crazy too. Now that Sunshine Bridge is something.
Yeah, I and that's what I'm saying. I was like, I remember crossing that bridge in the early '80s, and that bridge was still
May 9th.
Yeah, that bridge was
1980.
That bridge was still being fixed when we passed over it. So I remember that. But I saw
it's a beautiful big bridge today.
It's gorgeous.
Oh yeah,
it is gorgeous now.
I saw that they said 17,000 U.S. bridges are vulnerable to collapse from a single hit.
Oh gosh!
They said they called the term is fracture critical.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you hit one part, it's just going to compromise the entire structure.
Right.
So it's not like built in. They don't. The more modern bridges are built in with, I think, a couple of redundancies.
Right.
But they also did a study a couple of years ago that said 75% of the bridges in America could be condemned.
Right, yeah.
Just the way they are right. And
I've heard that before, yeah.
Yeah, they said out of the 615,000 bridges in America, 17,468 are fracture critical. And that's according to the NTSB. That's about 7.5% of all U.S. bridges.
That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So
it makes me think about some of the bridges around here, like, some of the ones that have traffic or whatever underneath it, how up to snuff are those,
Yeah, I mean, it's,
it puts into question a lot of that kind of stuff where you're like, well, especially after seeing it. Once you see it and, like I said, it just looks like it bumps it and then the whole thing comes falling down. It's like, wow, that can't be good.
Yeah. I mean, I've often wondered, I'm like, okay, from this incident, I'm wondering if some terrorist cell has got an idea. Just like nobody thought that nobody would load an airplane up and crash it into a building.
Well, how do you know this wasn't one? Where was the pilot from?
I think they were from, but there was a Dutch company, I believe, that commissioned it. It was from Singapore, wasn't it?
It was from Singapore and ran by a Singapore-based company. But where was the pilot from?
I don't remember.
Ukraine. And so after this accident, the internet goes abuzz saying, hey, if you don't keep sending us arms and money, more of this is going to happen.
Well,
now I know that's kind of far-fetched, but the guy was from Ukraine.
I know. Whether that is or not, I'm just worried about did some actors get some ideas that I'm telling you, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to say, okay, how can I cripple the United States? Let me just crash a giant ship, because these ships that are coming through, a lot of these bridges were not built at the time when ships were a lot smaller.
Sure.
I mean, they when they widened the Panama Canal to allow much larger ships from Asia to start coming through and to access East Coast ports.
They didn't wind it big enough for the ships today.
Well, no, they said they did. It did get widened, and so they're saying because of the large the ships now that are being used, there is no bridges that were. A lot of these bridges, I should say, let me correct myself. A lot of these bridges that were built prior to 1991, because that's when the codes changed from the Florida disaster. A a lot of those bridges are very vulnerable unless communities have gone in to do some retrofitting. But these ships are twice as big as they were back in the day, and at the amount of weight, I believe this ship was about 980 feet long.
Jeez,
and it was 200 million pounds. That's incredible when you think about it. I mean, it's just. They said, I'm looking at here. They said between 1960 and 2015, 35 major bridges across the planet collapsed because of ship or barge collisions, resulting in 342 deaths. According to a 2018 report from the World Association for Waterborne Transport Infrastructure, during the first 3 months of this year, the Key Bridge collapsed in Baltimore. A bridge in southern China was sliced in half, and parts of a bridge were cut through in Argentina after large commercial ships collided with them. So, what's happened is the ships are getting bigger, means their girth, I mean the width, the length, the weight that they're carrying now, and a lot of these bridges are just not built with that sort of thinking in mind if they would get hit. They're just not. So, this is going to be an interesting thing how this plays out when, especially with Congress, and you always hear talk about needing more money for infrastructure, and so, this is what aggravates me. And not to kind of go off another topic, but we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, and we have $125 billion backlog of bridge repairs in the United States. And I'm sitting there going, why can't we just fix our own stuff? That just, to me, would just, it pulls what little hair I have out of my head. Of what are the priorities in this country, about trying to take it, this whole America First thing. That's where some of this comes from. It's like, it's time we gotta fix our own house.
Yes, we do.
When
you think about our politicians make less than $200,000 a year and they're worth $220 million, there's your answer right there. They don't care about Americans. They care about their own pocketbook. And, until that changes, they don't care about our infrastructure here because they're never going to have to use it. They have their own private jets and helicopters and everything else. It's us that are using those things.
And a lot of these bridges, and now it's not only ships that are contributing to its car. Regular traffic. Trucks now are getting bigger, heavier, which is contributing to bridge, deterioration. So there's a lot of things going on here. They say that in 2021 that 1.2 trillion passed Congress.
Wow.
110 billion was for roads, bridges, and other major infrastructure projects. So, maybe they'll get something. They'll fix some of these things that need to be fixed, or at least strengthen them. Because I know. We kind of mentioned it, I don't know if it was last week, about the federal government jumping in and people were complaining why the feds and the companies. Yeah. And I agree, the feds need to be involved. We need to get this thing fixed and because of the economic impact.
Yeah, I think we brought it up a little bit before the show last week. I don't think we said it on air, but that was one of the things that I heard people kind of complaining and talking about a lot, was the fact that the federal government is, or at least President Joe Biden had talked about the fact that the federal government's going to pay for the bridge to get it fixed and get that thing underway.
And they should.
Right. And so, but people, the counter argument they were saying was like, that's like taxpayers' dollars that are going to go towards that, and they didn't like that. And I was like, and I understand where their gripe is going to with that is, but then again, when you think about it from the aspect of trying to get money out of that company to pay for that is going to be years and years worth of process.
Well, I think the NTSB said this is going to take a year to 2 years.
Right.
And so to even conclude the investigation,
yes,
to find out if there was negligence, if it was simply a mechanical error.
Right.
And that's what it comes out to, then I can't necessarily blame the
Oh, right,
right.
right.
It's not like, the ship wanted to hit the thing now, unless you want to adopt the conspiracy theory and say it was planned, but there's no evidence to indicate that. Exactly. And I'm not going to go there until
until
maybe I get a little bit more.
But as we're saying, all that has to get ironed out before any money can come in. And so at that point, like that's a big enough bridge where something needs to be there.
That's what I'm saying. Instead of $100 billion to Ukraine, why don't you take a couple billion of that and shave that off and pump that over to Baltimore?
Right. Reinforce an actual really good bridge.
Exactly. But so Sean McNally, the American Trucking Association, in an interview with Fox Business, said 4,900 trucks travel that bridge every day, carrying about $28 billion in goods every year.
Well, that bridge was actually originally designed and built because a lot of the chemicals and things like that can't go through the tunnels.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's massive amounts of tunnels in that area that you can't bring a lot of this stuff through. So now where is it going to go?
They say, I think they're going to, matter of fact, they brought that up. They said there's now going to be 30 miles of detours.
Cool. 30 miles.
30 miles of detours for a hazmat load.
Yep.
To navigate that area now. That's fuel cost.
Oh, that's
we all know fuel has gone up. That wear and tear on vehicles and everything else that you have to do.
Well, just time. Like that's like the thing is with that. Like I mean, not only is it money and all that as well, but like that. I mean, that slows a lot of things down because you have to wait on everything.
That port is the busiest in the United States for car shipments. Wow. 750,000 vehicles in 2023, according from data from the Maryland Port Administration.
Interesting.
It is largest by volume for handling farm and construction machinery, as well as agricultural products. So
it's crazy to hear things like that because I know like big rigs, 18-wheelers, shipping containers. Like I know that a lot of these infrastructural things like that has to get here somehow. I know that like how you get your stuff from Amazon or from the store or like all that has to get transported across the country or however it. I know all that. I know how all that stuff kind of works, but it's crazy to hear like specifics like that where like in my life I never have to worry about like how am I going to get a hold of like construction or agricultural farm equipment, but like there's people out there that need that and like it's crazy to think that like. That being like one of the major locations of that happening, and now it's just no longer a thing right now.
It actually, I believe, if I'm trying to find where I saw it, but I have it written down. But it is the furthest port inland closest to the Midwest markets.
Okay.
Than any of the East Coast ports at all. Within a day's drive of that port, they can reach a third of the United States population.
Wow,
it's very critical.
Yeah,
that and they get this thing up and running as fast as they can. Which I think they have some ambitious goals.
Well, I mean,
I think they have some ambitious goals,
right,
of what they want to do to get that up and running. But
well, the NTSB said it could take up to 10 years to figure out what happened in this accident alone.
And see, like, you got to imagine, like, you can't wait 10 years to start building anything like that. Maybe, I mean, like, let's say right now, we start cleaning up and building something now. I mean, it could probably take the better part of 5 to 10 years before, like, things are back to normal, or, I mean, maybe less if I'm wrong, but, like, I can only imagine,
right.
You start putting all the resources into fixing that like that. It's still going to take time.
Well,
that's before we even start talking about whose fault it was or what happened.
Here I'm showing U.S. News Report. This article's dated April 4th. and they're saying that they expect to open a limited access channel to the port within the next 4 weeks, measuring some 280 feet wide by 35 feet deep, or 85 meters by 11 meters. The channel would support one-way traffic in and out of the port for barge container service and some vessels that move automobiles and farm equipment to and from the port. They said the United States Army Corps of Engineers aiming to reopen the permanent 700-foot wide by 50 feet deep Federal Navigation Channel by the end of May, which will restore port access to normal capacity.
Okay.
So they're moving
fast.
They're moving fast. Now, that's depending on weather and other factors as far as just the complication of cleaning up the wreckage.
Yep.
Because that it's going to be, I can only imagine trying to, how that's even going to, how to even start breaking that down.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, this is a major deal. I just worry about.
Well, does the name Francis Scott Key sound familiar?
Absolutely.
Where's that come from?
Star Spangled Banner.
There you go. We're
talking about the national
anthem.
anthem.
National anthem. That's right. We were talking about that earlier. So, 30,000 people commuted daily on this bridge, according to Governor Westmore. It originally cost $60.3 million to build. So and that was in 1977. So can you imagine what it's going to cost today?
You said 63 million?
I think they started
60.3.
They started construction in 1972, and it was completed in 1977.
It ranks as the 9th largest U.S. port for international cargo, and it handled a record 52.3 million tons with a $80.8 billion value in 2023.
Yeah, it did say that.
It's great that, I mean, this port supports 15,330 direct jobs and 139,000 jobs in related services.
Yep.
So this is kind of this port's a big deal.
Yep. Yeah, I think according to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, it is the 20th biggest port in the United States.
What was the year it was built again?
77. It was completed. It started in 72.
Well, the study I had said it's the 9th biggest U.S. port.
Well, I don't know. I'm showing here. It's just it's the 20th biggest port by. Now, as I said, I've seen several statistics different on the size of this ship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had one report saying it was this amount of weight. This report that I don't.
$60.3 million in 1977 is worth about $308 million in today's money.
No, it's going to take more than $300 million.
I'm just saying, like you're talking about how much would it have built.
Yeah.
So right now,
it's about a $2 to $3 billion project.
That's what they're estimating. Yep.
That's wild. And I can only imagine because of also, you're saying cleanup and all the other stuff, probably it's going to eat a lot of that cost as well, But I guess on like a positive note, at least in some capacity, like I'm pretty sure anybody who's working in the construction field, I mean, has their work cut out for them now, in bridge construction and all that kind of stuff. I can only imagine, it's an awful event, but.
Yeah, it's this ship. The ship was headed to Sri Lanka.
Really?
That's where it was going.
Wow.
I think they're pretty lucky that didn't happen during 5 o'clock traffic.
Well,
yeah.
You say that it's lucky that they were able to get the Mayday and they were able to stop traffic, and it happened at night. I can only imagine.
Well, they had already closed part of it down for the construction. And that's why the construction workers were on it. They were filling potholes. So they had semi-closed it, and then they got the Mayday and really did what they could to close it, but they couldn't get the workers off.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, you were talking about jobs in this community. I'm showing you. You said it was 15,000 jobs. See, in this, I show it was $2 million in wages a day, and it was 8,000 direct jobs. So, I don't know. But regardless, that's a lot of jobs. And
Right,
a lot of people
Yep.
that are going to be affected by this.
Yep.
And my condolence, and my prayers are with them right now. I mean, I know it's what it is, but
Yeah.
it's very that all of a sudden now you wonder if I'm going to have a job now, and
Right.
how that works, because a lot of this shipping now is being redirected to other ports.
Right.
Which is going to cause things to go up because now you got to fuel these ships and pay those workers more. And
yeah, I mean, I'd be very curious where I guess they'll go to New York and they'll go to other places.
Dang.
To drop off these things. They said more than 1,100 Army Corps of Engineer personnel assisting the clearing of the channel. So
Okay.
Yep.
Man, that's
they do have the recorder, the data off the ship. They've already pulled that off.
really.
Yep. So they can probably start to establish timelines of different things to kind of figure out what happened.
Right.
I think I saw the latest report. They found another body.
Really?
So they have found 3.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah, they said here the Singapore flag departed from the port of Baltimore around 12:45 a.m. en route to Colombo, Sri Lanka. With just over 4 minutes, the vessel underwent significant changes. It altered its course as it approached the bridge. Power loss around 1:24 a.m. local time. The ship appeared to lose power for approximately 60 seconds. Its highest registered speed between the port and the bridge was 8.7 knots, slowing down around 1 kilometer from the bridge. The last registered speed was 7.6 knots between 100 meters and 200 meters from the bridge. Just over a minute after the apparent loss of power, the ship started producing black smoke. The lights went out for a second time a little over 2 minutes before a collision. At 1:28 a.m., the ship struck the bridge. 4 seconds later, the bridge collapsed.
See, 4 seconds. That's wild.
Yeah, that's quick.
That's fast.
Yeah, he goes, maritime safety expert David McFarland suggests that the most likely cause of the crash was a failure in the ship's machinery or steering gear. And he rules out human error due to the number of people on duty, emphasizing that there should be no room for one-person errors.
Okay.
So,
I mean, from what it sounds like you're saying, there's like a mechanical error. There's some things that are going wrong, and it's just damage control is what it feels like. Everyone's just trying their best to and then, of course, the power goes out and things are messing up, and it's just...
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be, I'm telling you, there is going to be supply chain ripple effects to this. And I'm just, right now, we're still dealing with supply chain issues from COVID.
Yep.
Yes,
and now you've got, because of all the problems they were having on the West Coast, because how many container ships were sitting out in the Pacific Ocean waiting to enter because there was no one to unload the cargo. So yeah.
Right.
And also here I found this pretty interesting too. In 2023, 220,000 bridges were in need of replacement in the United States. You know what the number one state was?
Louisiana?
No. Iowa.
Oh, wow.
Iowa?
Really?
Iowa as 1. Pennsylvania 2. Illinois 3. Missouri 4.
Really?
Oklahoma 5. New York 6. Louisiana 7.
Okay.
8 California. 9 West Virginia, and 10 North Carolina.
Hey, 7 out of 10 ain't bad.
Rather, I mean, 51 out of it.
You're right.
So I mean, we got one in Louisiana over there, the Lake Charles, that crosses over the Calcasieu River.
Yeah.
That's everybody says is just waiting to fall down.
Oh.
which
That's terrifying.
every time you go over it, it's like,
uh-oh.
is this the day
No,
that
no.
this is the day that
Maybe I
it
should
will
drive a little bit
collapse?
faster. Let me just drive a little bit
Let
faster.
me see the speed limit this time,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So, yeah.
Jeez, man. That's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, they say I have 4,207 bridges in the United States that allow ships to pass under them. Of those, 36% are described as having functional pier protection, and that included the Francis Scott Key Bridge. So, as you can see, once again, I'll probably go back to my previous comment that I think the nature of ships have gotten so much larger that the kind of the parameters that were set up no longer apply.
Right.
I mean, you would have to redo everything at a completely different scale. But in the United States, I mean, for example, the United States is ranked like 13th in the world in infrastructure. So we used to be at the top, and we've kind of fallen behind. They said the average age of a bridge in the United States is 44 years old.
Wow.
These bridges were built with a 50-year lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
With traffic counts to go out about 30 years. That's how they project it. We've far exceeded.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the problems we're having here in Louisiana is we're at the life expectancy of most of our bridges and our roads, our interstates. That's why they're doing so much construction right now. And the new Mississippi River Bridge has 3 lanes down to 1, and they're having to do something about that. And
well, I mean, this is more of a local issue, but I mean, I think that we've needed, Baton Rouge is somewhat a little unique in the transportation world that does not really have a bypass around the city.
that's right.
And unfortunately, I've kind of heard some anecdotal stories of why is that. And a matter of fact, if for our listeners who are familiar, if people look at the Lake Charles bypass,
10-2 split.
believe it or not, the money that was built that was originally slated for Baton Rouge. And at the time, the current mayor refused the federal money because he didn't want the federal government telling him how to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, that money left Baton Rouge and went to Lake Charles, and that's why Lake Charles has the 210 bypass. And Baton Rouge still doesn't have a bypass. And it kind of harkens back to this whole infrastructure argument of the amount of money and priorities of where money should be spent. Should we be taking care of our own people here in the United States and rebuilding our infrastructure here and bringing it up to snuff? I mean, you go to like Taiwan and you go to some of these Asian and you see the absolute beautiful architecture of some of these buildings and bridges and stuff. It's like, how are they building this? Why can't we build this here?
Right.
What's going on here? And that's what I'm saying. When I see here, we get $100 billion to Ukraine or this or that or something else. I'm sitting there going, why can't we spend that here and fix our own place up, fix our own house? And then once we fix our own house, then we'll worry about other people at that point.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, this to me, this highlights a very scary scenario that the amount of bridges that are one strike away from collapsing. And I don't know if the bridge that's crossing over the Mississippi River in Baton Rouge is one of those.
Right.
Would it take one hit to bring the whole bridge down?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, remember the old Mississippi River Bridge was designed to stop ocean-going vessels from going north of it. That was Huey P. Long. And that forced Baton Rouge and New Orleans to be the ports of the Mississippi and use Louisiana labor.
Well,
and that's also why the St. Louis Mafia decided to take him out and pay some certain people to assassinate him on the steps of the Capitol, and the bullet holes are still in the Capitol.
Oh, yeah. I've seen them. Been there many times. You know, well, to me, you know, forcing, I mean, but I don't know how the river would work as a navigable waterway north of Baton Rouge.
They used to go all the way up to St. Louis. That's the tugboats. That's what the tugboats are for. They can turn the ship around. That's what they're designed for. Not maybe some of these, not a 900-foot ship.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
You know,
yeah. I mean, river boats. Yeah, used to go up and down the Mississippi River from Natchez and everything. I get that, but I'm looking at a picture of that massive ship in the harbor, and I'm going, I don't know if that would make it all the way up to like St. Louis.
Right.
I mean, if the river was,
but you got to remember when that bridge was built, they didn't have ships this size.
Right.
So.
Yeah, this is going to be it's going to be interesting how this plays out, but I'll be very curious how the markets respond.
But if it was an attack, will we know about it?
Probably not.
No, not until probably, a decade from now.
Right.
Because
I think if I would say this, given that scenario, if it is an attack, this was not an attack, this was an exploratory, what would happen?
A hypothetical.
Yeah. Let's see if this happened. Okay, we knock a bridge down, but, how about if we do this in the middle of the day?
Right.
Well, one of the things that came out, it says multiple intel sources. Baltimore Bridge collapse was an absolutely brilliant strategic attack on U.S. critical infrastructure, most likely cyber or EMP, and our intel agencies know it. In information warfare terms, they just divided the U.S. along the Mason-Dixon line, just like in the Civil War, the second busiest strategic roadway in the nation for hazardous materials, now down for 4 to 5 years, which is how long they say it will take to recover. The bridge was built specifically to move hazardous material, fuel, diesel, propane, nitrogen, flammable materials, chemicals, and oversized cargo that cannot fit into the tunnels. That supply chain is now crippled. Make no mistake, this was an extraordinary attack in terms of planning, timing, and execution. Because the little mini EMPs keep popping up in the chatter about this thing. Because if you were to have an EMP to take out a city, it just would be, hydrogen bomb size. But what if you could take out a car or a train or a ship with a mini EMP?
Well, to me, yeah. You could then kill it.
Because you could hide that anywhere on the ship.
Right.
Near the control room.
Basically shut down. So you've shut down all communication on the ship, all power, steering is out. Now you're drifting. And they could possibly try to drop anchors.
Well, they did.
Try to stop where they're at. But I guess that would depend on where they're at in relation to the bridge. So, I don't, there was a lot of, hazmat on that ship too. A lot of hazmat. They said they identified 56 containers of hazardous materials, and some are in the water.
Oh, yikes.
That's 764 tons.
Jeez.
It says mostly corrosives, flammable, and other miscellaneous hazmat material.
Jeez,
and Class 9 hazardous materials, which would include lithium batteries. So, yeah.
Wow. That's not good.
No.
Yeah, so you're talking about, I mean, I don't know what these ships carry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a disaster of epic proportion. It would all of a sudden become a hazmat scene
Right.
at the same time.
And it's interesting to think like that a ship like that, like this theory that you're talking about with it, being a strategic attack and all that kind of stuff, EMPs and whatnot. Like it's interesting to think like the people on board couldn't know about it. You know what I mean? Like the idea that a ship can be shut down and can cause so much damage, and technically everyone on board is innocent. You know what I mean?
Well, I think there were 21 crew members and 2 pilots.
right.
So there were 2 river, I guess it was 2 river pilots. That would be interesting to be able to get a river pilot on our show.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know one.
Really?
Yeah. That'd be very interesting to talk about that in light of this incident and the role they play.
Yeah.
Now, I do know that they navigate the river here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In a case of a harbor,
Right.
I guess their role is similar, but they're looking for different things to guide the ship in and making sure they stay in the channel and not get out or the water, I imagine, gets pretty shallow pretty quick.
Yeah.
As it relates to these big ships, because I think they need at least 35 feet deep.
Yeah, that channel's only 50 feet deep that ship was going through.
So it's not that it's not that deep at all.
Wow.
So
that's wild.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's a major deal. I mean, I just I know here I was looking at this as a CNN report, just more talk about the economic impact on this. And, I mentioned it's closer to the Midwest than any other port on the East Coast. It's a major hub for vehicle containers and commodities. Baltimore ranks first among U.S. ports for autos and light trucks, handling a record 850,000 vehicles last year. Last year, we received and processed and shipped approximately 100,000 vehicles through Baltimore for U.S. dealers located in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic U.S., Volkswagen said in a statement, adding that its facility is on the seaboard side of the Key Bridge. We do not anticipate any impact on vehicle operations, but there may be trucking delays as traffic will be rerouted in the area. I can only imagine what the traffic situation is going to be a nightmare.
And can those roads handle all those people?
Yeah, because now you're
that's the next step. Are those ready?
Yeah. Is all those detours ready for the next handful of years worth of trucks going through it?
Yeah, up to 10 years maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, many of the 30 to 35,000 cars and trucks that use the Keeper can be rerouted through the tunnels that will cause traffic delays.
Yeah, but you get one accident in them tunnels and everything's
done.
Dead stop.
Rerouting cargo to Philadelphia, Norfolk, or the Port of New York, New Jersey would push up trucking and rail prices if the volumes are significant and could cause some congestion at some of those alternative ports.
Oh, of course. Man, I can only imagine the repercussions of all this now. One bridge goes out and I feel like everything is going to be...
Yeah, it says freight rates on transatlantic routes are roughly back to 2019 levels following a spike during the pandemic. But prices for trips heading from Asia to the U.S. East Coast are more than double their March 2019 level because attacks on shipping in the Red Sea have forced vessels to divert around Africa rather than using the Suez Canal. Other East Coast ports should have enough capacity to handle the ships normally. But unexpected disruption of those ports could cause problems. Basically, this removes the margin for error. So, and this is, I'm reading off of a a report, a CNN report, and it was dated March 27th of this year. So, yeah.
So, do we need to pause and go look at the eclipse right now? Just
I think it's over.
Oh no! Don't say so.
Or I think it's going to be till 3, so we still got some time.
Okay,
but
good.
Yeah,
I'm just being.
I
funny.
don't know. I think it's still cloudy outside, anyways. But yeah, I really worry now about the other bridges in America. Maybe less so the ones that don't have ships underneath them, but still, that's scary enough as it is. But specifically the ones that have traffic, like that's crazy that something like this could happen.
Well, as I said, I think if anything, if this comes out to be nothing more than just an unfortunate tragedy, mechanical tragedy,
right?
It still gives people of dubious character
some ideas.
It's like, okay, we can't use airplanes anymore. Disable a large cargo ship?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Smash it into a bridge?
Yep.
Cause a lot of damage, kill a lot of people, and under the right set of circumstances, especially if nobody knows.
Right.
But I mean, I can some of these bridges you would think at rush hour when people are at a standstill at traffic. I mean, what you gonna do?
That's crazy.
Well, when there's an accident around the new Mississippi River Bridge in Baton Rouge, they consider that the world's tallest parking lot. Because you can be stuck on that bridge for hours if something happens.
I mean, it's just there's so much there's so much. I think the economic fallout of this will be very interesting to see, and I don't mean to demean it by saying it's interesting, because it is a tragedy, and there's a lot of people, like real world lives are going to be affected by this, and I don't mean it in that way, but to see what really happens
and who postures for what.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's also like, I mean, it's like you said, like the fact that it happened at night and the bridge was mostly, not populated, and like even though there is, I think, was there only 6 casualties, or?
Yeah, I think it was.
Or was that? I know that's just the construction workers that were unaccounted for, but I didn't know if there was more people that had died on the bridge or not.
That was the only people on it were the construction.
And like
workers.
I know I don't want to belittle their deaths, because obviously 0 is obviously the goal to keep here. But at that point, I mean, like you're saying before, the fact that it was mostly shut down and it wasn't like a catastrophe of epic proportions where a whole swath of people in that community are gone. It's unfortunate all around. It shouldn't happen, but at least it happened underneath the circumstances that it did, I feel like.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we are I don't know. I mean, this is kind of a I think about kind of where we're at right now, and all the things of just how vulnerable we are.
Well, there's attacks daily on America, number one, just with cyber attacks and everything.
I just never thought about just how vulnerable we are, and how things are so just
sensitive. Everything's
sensitive. I mean, it's just not. It's nothing is like, okay, a tragedy is bad enough, but I mean, for the ripple effects to not be as bad.
Yeah.
I think the ripple effects are even now more magnified of how interconnected we are. So we'll see. Of course, they said 1 to 2 years to figure out this investigation and what's going to be going on, and who knows a year or two from now what the world will be like.
Yeah.
So, but like I am a big fan of spending money in this country and fixing things that need
Yes.
to get fixed.
Yep.
Take care of us first.
We need to do that, and I don't understand the reluctance, the lack of, that people should be screaming at the top of their lungs about. We need to fix our own house.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
And quit worrying about the rest of the world. Not that we ignore the rest of the world. I mean, the detractors out there. So, well, Jason, you can't live in a vacuum, and we don't live. We can't be isolationists. I'm not saying to be isolationists, but I think the balance needs to be a little bit more evened out with what we spend here, and then of course our obligations overseas. And I get it. We have treaties with other countries that kind of obligate us to do certain things. I understand.
Right.
I'm not saying completely just pull out of the whole world, and
of course,
because we're all on one planet.
Right.
And if one day we ever leave this planet, we'll look at it. We're all human beings.
Right.
Until aliens arrive, and then all of a sudden things change.
Well, yeah. I agree with you. I do think that there needs to be at least a little more focus on, on what we got going on here. A little more spending on us, but I mean, I don't know how to make that happen. I don't know who to talk to.
Oh, talk to your senators and your congressmen.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do first, and you just tell them and say, "Look, I need you to think about us first, and that should always be the first thing in your mind, and not worry about what's going on in Europe or Asia or whatever the case may be."
Mm-hmm.
So, but
all right. Anything else you guys want to touch on?
Yes.
Okay. What you got?
This is April, and it's kind of crazy.
Okay.
This is everything going on in the world today. But did you know that in April there are 10, I hope I say this right, please email us if I get it wrong, I don't want to butcher this word, palindrome days?
Palindrome?
Yes,
yeah.
Where there are 10 in a row, and that is each date reads the same backwards and forwards, and that's 420 through 429. So like the 20th will be 42024. All the way to the 29th, which will be 42924.
That's cool.
So there's 10 of them in a row. I don't ever remember that many days being around. I remember when I was a kid, we used to laugh at it when it was just that one day.
Right.
But here we've got 10 days in a row.
That's cool.
Right after the eclipse. So
fun.
Yeah. And I do have something for you, Jason. You asked a question on why we want to spend money elsewhere other than America. Ukrainian official has actually released documents showing how much the U.S. politicians have been gotten in kickbacks, from Joe Biden's $92 million, Mitch McConnell's $89 million, Nancy Pelosi's $86 million, Schumer's $66, Lindsey Graham $82, Romney $71, all the way down to Elizabeth Warren's $42 million.
And let me guess, those are some of the biggest fans of sending money to Ukraine.
Exactly.
It's amazing how that works, right?
Exactly.
But they always say, follow the money.
There's no money in it for them to fix our infrastructure, but there's so much money in it for them to go fix the Ukraine's infrastructure and fix their borders.
Who is giving the kickbacks? I'm confused as to how they're getting that money. What is that? So they send money over to Ukraine, and then what?
Through shadow companies and corporations, and
that they own stocks in.
They funnel it back,
okay.
or their kids. Their what was it? Biden's son made millions and millions being on a board of the Ukrainian gas production.
Right, and it's nothing but these are shell companies.
And
it's
called money laundering.
Right. Yeah, they just.
You don't actually think Hunter Biden's artwork is worth $5 million a picture, do you?
Yeah, it's become a joke now. But as I'm saying, we tolerate it, and because there's no outrage and demanding these people not do this, and until that happens, people who have the means and have the desire, can never discount good old-fashioned human greed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I can't have enough money. If I have $5 million, I want 10 million. If I got 10 million, I want 15 million. It never ends. But, well.
I started looking back on some previous presidents we've had, like Teddy Roosevelt, for one, I was looking at, and just like hearing some stories and all that kind of stuff from like a time feels like so long ago that I was not even a part of. It's crazy to think how much the country's changed in just my lifetime, but even over the course of the past 100 and some odd years. How there's probably always has been this spirit behind it, probably greed and probably, power and all that stuff, but it just feels so much more ugly now. It feels so much more apparent how just gross it all is, at least for me, of what I've noticed. I don't know. There was a time where like you can read about people in history and there's like an honorable history. There's, they're not perfect people. In fact, they're probably really bad people as well. But like at least they had at least they cared about the people of the country. At least they cared about the country, I think, in some way. But like right now, I feel like I haven't been able to see someone like that, where there's a person I can get behind that like is really gonna like help do what's best for the country instead of being some sort of sensational, Instagram, or some sort of internet celebrity or whatever, where it's just like it all feels so disgusting, and like it's crazy. It's really crazy how.
Well, it can get it can get that way, and I know we all talk about the corruption of Washington and corruption of government. Nobody seems to do the right thing for the right reason, and at the end of the day, all you and I and anybody else out there that's just a ordinary guy or gal who goes to work, comes home, tries to pay your bills, try to raise your families, do all the things that normal people just do day in and day out. You have no special influence. All you can do is vote.
I know.
That's it.
And that's the thing.
All you can do is vote.
That's what I think I meant when I was saying all that, is that I fundamentally understand all that. It just becomes a bit depressing that I don't see somebody that I'm like, I can get behind that person in any way.
Well, that's why
there's no politician, there's no war hero, there's no person around here that I can see right now that I'm like, I'm willing to put in my 2 cents for that person, because I feel like they're going to do what's best for the people of the country, what's the best for the country. And that's what's sad, is like it all just feels so much like a money political game, and it's felt like that way for me for a long time, but it's just even more so now, talking about this. We're reading off names from people that are more worried about other countries because they're lining their own pockets, and it's like that's sad that we live in a country that is falling apart because people are chasing money. And that's the realist. And I just was venting about that because it's sad, because we're heading into an election, and I'm like, I wish there was somebody here that I could go like, I'm willing to fight for that person. I'm willing to sit here and say that person is going to help lead us into some sort of bright and hopeful future. And I'm like, and I don't see that, and that's what's depressing, and it's kind of sad.
Remember, I don't know who started it, but there is the hashtag Stoney for president.
I love you the most, Stoney, but I don't think you can fix what's going on here.
Look, the fact of the matter...
Oh, they'd kill me so fast.
The fact of the matter is to get to the level of where these individuals are at, to get to those levels of government and those levels of influence and power, compromises are made.
Right.
It's the nature of the it's either you have a dictator that basically it's my way or the highway and you run it, or you accept the dysfunction that is what is, for lack of a better term, democracy.
Yeah.
For all its good and bad, either you have a king, like it was in the old days, or you have our model of how we do business now. But to have our model to work the way it's meant to work, that means you need to have a critical mass of people who kind of believe in the same thing, kind of share the same values, that kind of have all these kind of for the most part, the fundamentals of life are pretty much, yes, this group agrees with them, this group agrees with them. The problem is now you don't have that. You've lost a lot of that hegemony that would used to kind of that cohesiveness that kind of breathed and kept the engine roll. Now you have so much dysfunction that it's hard to kind of get that. So what's happening is greed, and that's opens those avenues for people to say, you know what? I'm looking out for me. Because at the end of the day, I got to take care of me and my family.
Right.
I ain't worried about your family. I mean, it's just but unfortunately, that's the attitude for a lot of those people.
I know.
And I
understand that. And I'm not said that I don't
understand. And that's been going on a long time. Rockefeller said, I'll destroy America because they hurt him. They mess with his money.
So that's what I'm saying.
And it's been going on a long time.
So anybody listening out there, we need to fix our infrastructure. Spend money here. Fix America. Then we can fix the world. But we have to fix our own country first.
Well,
got to take care of our own people.
I think our own people have to care about each other first, and that's hard because I don't think we do. I think we are our own worst enemies. We hate each other too much, which is wild. I mean, but anyways, we don't got to get into all that. It's a whole different topic.
That's a whole different topic.
That's a whole different topic. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. For those of you out there that are trying to reach out to us and give us a little brief comment on something, we got a Facebook page /Retrospect Pod, where you can give us little short form comments, or if you have some more long form responses or things you want to suggest to us and stuff, we have an email address, getoffendedtogether@gmail.com. But anyways, until next week, thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. God bless.
Thank you for hanging out with us again today. You're the best. Peace.